All right, patch 2.2 for Total War Warhammer 3 has gone live today, and it is huge. It is huge. So let's go through these patch notes. We're going to talk about some of the things that have changed, go through some of the race-specific stuff. Big things on that, Wood Elves and Empire have really kind of won the day there. Lots of campaign changes. I am not even going to touch any of the balance changes when it comes to individual unit weapon strength and cost reductions and stuff like that in multiplayer. It's just too dense in this patch. These patch notes are already going to be long enough. If you do want to check those out, I will do my best to keep the link on the description as fast as possible. I'm pre-seeded with this information, so I'm showing you a PDF right now. I don't have the actual link. So once I get that, I'll put that into the description. You can check out those multiplayer changes if you so wish. But kind of going through the highlights here. Changes to settlements and garrisons to reduce the frequency of settlement battles. Yeah, all minor settlement battles are now land battles again. And all major settlement battles are walled city battles. So it's like Warhammer 2 all over, I think. I'd have to jump into the game to understand that a little bit better, but it's like on one hand, I'm glad because I think we've had too many minor settlement battles. But on the other hand, I feel like it's like, okay, that feature which we all kind of wanted was added, but now it felt like overblown to the effect that we get nothing but minor settlement battles. So it's like I think we wanted a middle ground, not to not have that at all. So once we actually get the patch and we actually play it and test it out, we'll see what it's like. But that didn't seem like a good patch note to me. And you guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below. But additional flavor for some of the special settlement garrisons, including Carrick 8 Peaks, Black Pyramids, Gave and Blight, and so on and so forth. Character experience rebalance, reducing the importance of victory types and focusing on enemy unit destruction. So now lords at levels 30 will get a skill where they will share their experience with other lords and heroes and such. Heroes will actually get more experience if they contribute into a fight, and it doesn't matter what difficulty you're on and stuff like that for the experience per battle. It just simply is based upon how many units you destroy, and if it's a marching unit, you'll get full experience. So that's like kind of a double-edged sword there, because I think it's going to force us to go into fast forward and mop up any units we find on the map, because even if you win, you don't get the amount of experience you would if you didn't pursue those units. So that's kind of an interesting little thing there. Tweaks to the victory objectives of several legendary lores, including those of the Lizardmen, High Elves, and Empire. Teclis is moved. We got a move for Alithanar. A whole bunch of stuff for the Empire, including the Hunts Marshal's objectives now actually being Empire, Lustria based on Empire base. So they're all kind of very nice. A game mode split option that has been added to ranked multiplayer. Adjustments to AI aggression. Plus monsters are invading the world in the old world in the form of Regiments of Renown. So yes, we get our third round of Regiments of Renown, as well as the Vermintide end of the world event here. So let's first go into the new and improved, but just the brand new Regiments of Renown here. And with these, we get pretty much a focus on monsters. As you can see, we're going to be getting a Terracotta Sentinel, the Green Guardian. It will have increased missile resistance and also redirecting aura. Enemy units within range of the aura will have their projectiles redirected back at themselves, which I think is pretty damn cool. Bloodthirster here, Khorne's Bloody Fist, gets Gore Shell, gains damage resistance when near large enemy targets, which I really love. The Frozen Heart of Winter for the Elemental Bear gets a bound spell, Heart of Winter. That's really destructive. That's really damn destructive. Uncle Furuncle gets ability Defiling Deluge. Uncle Furuncle heals himself while damaging enemies around him, and spell update Miasma Pestilence is a Spirit Leech, or from Miasma Pestilence to Spirit Leech. The Snowhorn of Morn for the Stonehorn. We can see this here is going to give us the Glacial Defense active ability. Stonehorn gains increased armor and missile resistance at the expense of some speed, and then Frostbite, so reduced speed of enemies when they strike in combat. The Marquis of Masochism for the Keeper of Secrets on Slaanesh. Feasting on Fear passive regenerates health based on number of enemies who had their morale break around the Keeper of Secrets, and then Lash of Slaanesh to Phantasmagoria, and then Acquiescence to Enfeebling Foe. The Golden Griffin of Theurgy from the Lord of Change is going to give ability increased armor, permanent glittering robe, spell update blue Blue Fire of Tzeentch to Searing Doom, and Pink Fire of Tzeentch to Gehenna's Golden Hounds. Then lastly, well, not lastly, but we also now have the Skaven Endgame Crisis, the Vermintide. So if you wanted a Vermintide Endgame Crisis, you are now going to be able to tap into such things. So with stability and performance, fix an end turn crash that was afflicting a lot of people, and fix a rare crash when characters would trigger post-battle voiceover lines in campaign. Moving into gameplay, we have a ton of stuff. So here are some, just kind of, we'll highlight some of these because, guys, we have so much to go into when we talk about the individual races and their balances and everything like that. Rule system and general updates. How they play events have been kind of rewritten a little bit. Removed a number of starting wars. Updated reinforcement locations within various settlements, faction settlements. Effects that increased healing caps are no longer 100x stronger than intended. Settlement and deployed towers have had their damage reduced to be consistent with Warhammer 1 and 2 towers. When colonizing ruins, you now take a temporary vigor penalty instead of a massive manpower loss, which I love. I love that change. Fix some quest items that provided magical attacks. Fix an issue where Sword of Cain didn't correctly transfer post-battle. Fix an issue where vassalized factions would lose objective completion. Fix an issue where auto-resolve battles auto-resolve battle results would change after loading a quick save. Remove the cap for income provided by tribute from vassals. There's some other ones I want to see. The free upkeep effect on endgame scenario armies is now visible to the player, and campaign reduction to the Winds of Magic cost should now properly affect overcast spells. And they've implemented some fixes for flying units being able to capture points. So if you're using these guys to capture points, you no longer can. So exploit fixes. Fix an exploit where certain legendary loans for Warhammer 2 could be duplicated in a single campaign. So let's move now over to the races and balances. Now, I could divide this by every single race, but I'm just going to try to blitz through this portion quickly. By and large, there's been a ton of changes for every little thing. So please, if I brush over something that you're really interested in, please go back and take a look so that you get a better idea. Big thing here for Crumbling. Crumbling now does more damage, from 10 to 20 to now 14 to 28 for Tomb Kings, Vampire Coast, and Vampire Count. So keep that in mind. Channeling and Winds of Magic replenishment. Several races lacking the channeling stance now have their own unique method of replenishing Winds of Magic. And Beastmen now get really nice stuff during full moon effects. So they get greatly increased Winds of Magic replenishment during full moon events. 50% during full, 100% during lunar eclipse, and 150 during solar eclipse. They gain plus 10 Winds of Magic per turn when in a raiding stance, which is pretty cool. Greenskins based on their faction wall, level gain 3, -3, 3, 6, 9 Winds of Magic per turn for all forces. Lizardmen, Nakai now gets channeling. Norska gains 10 Winds of Magic per turn when in raiding stance as well. Devotion to the Eagle now grants Winds of Magic power capacity. Vampire Coast, the flagship expansion stance, only available at sea, now offers the following Winds of Magic bonuses. And then Wood Elves now grant 3, 6, 9. Isn't that from a song? Damn, this bitch is fine. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 Winds of Magic power reserve per turn to local armies. And then Abduct Captive post-battle options now offers 5 Winds of Magic as well. So let's go into some of these changes here. So for Beastmen, across the board, Giants have not been a popular unit in any race or game mode despite the addition of missile resistance. We are again giving them a blanket buff, increasing their armor and weapon strength to make them one of the hardest hitting units in the game. Minotaurs are another unit that has been performing poorly, especially when Chaos Spawn occupy a similar design space. Now we are giving them a boost to their hit points, allowing them more time to benefit from their Blood Greed passive, which is pretty cool. But for general updates here, they no longer unlock Dark Elf ports when erecting a Herdstone, and they no longer can use their basic port and special port locations. Tarox gains 1+ momentum from the first battle that he fights each turn, and momentum will no longer decay after concluding a rampage, only when Tarox fights into battle, which I think is kind of nice. And his momentum granted at the start of a new rampage goes from 1 to now 3, which is huge. And for the campaign, Eye of the Gods no longer targets an army that does not belong to the player, and Oak of Ages settlements will now correctly provide a unique Herdstone building chain when occupied. A bunch of these changes for units, again, I'm going to just kind of just go right over those. I'm not even going to touch them. Skills for the Crowfather for Malagor now offers missile resistance instead of missile damage to his army as per Warhammer 2 effect. And Technology Nolan now correctly labeled as challenges in the search field. For Bretonia, what they really got here was a change to their units in speed. That's kind of a highlight here that I'm not really going to go into for every single unit, but all of them got faster. And that was mirroring a Boom, that happened in 2.0. Fixed Battle Pilgrim unit cards now showing on buildings for Bretonnia. A rare soft lock that could occur during AI Bretonnian faction turns has been fixed, and fixed the unavailability of the Bretonnia brothel building. The Fey Enchantress quest for Morgiana's Mirror will no longer autocomplete when constructing any building rather than the specified Tower of the Enchantress, and fixed Rapunzel's starting at mission for Pierre de Ardennes banner not completing. Some changes to the character abilities for Chalice, Guardian of Lyonesse, and Sword of Lyonesse, and enabled the missing army in Rapunzel's Sword of Lyonesse quest battle, meaning players can now complete it properly. Thank God. But into the Demons of Chaos, not a ton of changes here. Additionally, his Shadow Shroud ability's duration, this is for Be'lakor, sorry, is significantly longer than that of similar abilities, while also offering a notably stronger 40% damage resistance. While we want to maintain the power level, we'll be reducing the uptime to bring it into line. And finally, we are also reducing the play multiplayer cost of the Undivided Chaos Furies back to 550. So that's just kind of a quick little thing. But when it comes to the campaign and the Demon Prince and their deity-specific post-battle captives, you get unit experience for Khorne, replenishment for Nurgle, favor for Slaanesh, and now Winds of Magic for the Tzeentch, that old Wom. Then a bunch of changes here as well. Going into the Dark Elves, a slave mechanic overhaul has been added here. So clean up redundant help page information. Cool. But for slaves, starting number of slaves reduced from 200 to 100, and the right cost has gone from 400 to 800, and Diktat, not Ditka, cost has gone from 400 to 600 for open market, 200 to 400 elsewhere. Diktat cooldown for open market has gone from 5 to 0 turns, and several adjustments have been made to the slave drain in relation to public order. If public order is insecure, wavering, or weak, the slave drain rate from the buildings now increments to 10, 25, and then 100% accordingly. So if you're dropping low in public order, you're going to lose slaves faster, which I think is kind of a cool way to balance it out a little bit. It makes it a little bit more dynamic, which was the intention. The slave capacity brackets have also been adjusted as follows. So 0 to 500 is now gone up to 800. And then we go, basically, you see these caps go 500 to 5,000 is now 800 to 2,000. So these caps have gone down significantly, but kind of going bigger on the top end, right? You go from tier 4 went from 10k to 20k to now 5k to 10k. Then tier 5 went from 20k to 50k to now 10k to 100k. So you see how that top end has a much larger bracket there. And construction costs have been changed here as well, with -2, 5, 10, 15, 25. And then construction time reduction has gone from 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. Public order increase as well here. A bunch of changes with this. I really like it. I think that the slave mechanic was cool at first blush, but I think that it needed a little bit more dynamicism. The increased production commandment now has the following effect: growth plus 25 to now 50, and slave income from 10% is doubled up to 20%. That's huge. That is so huge. Sacrifice for Cain slaves effects have been changed from slave decline -30 to now -50. Now, additionally, reduce the slave cost of diktats by 10% for roads. And then the buildings in the industry chain, their slave drain is now only active when above 100 slaves. And slave drain rate has been increased to -20, -40, -80. So a very significant drain rate, especially on that top end. It doubles, right? Black Ark slave building, added slaves per turn is now 10, 20, 40. And for the farm, provide half their growth based on slave availability, added small slave capacity increase, and added 5, 10, and 20% slave income increase in region. So you can see quite a bit is now based off of the slaves. A little bit better of a slave drain rate, and you can see that it's going to now take you a little bit more effort to keep your slaves at capacity, I guess is the better way to put it. Especially with the capacity changes too, it's going to be really, I think, a fun struggle at least. For campaign, Rakarth's Whip of Agony quest battle now correctly offers a recruitable Black Ark as a reward. Malice's Right, Gift of the Witch King, now gives experience to the spawned hero. The number of settlements in Malekith's faction is now displayed when performing the rite. And the Dark Elf Long Victory reward now grants 15% income from slaves, which is cool. Pixel here being wrongly affected by loyalty, which is nice. Battles of updated character abilities in the Warp Sword of Cain quest. Fixing issue with Murder's prowess wouldn't always display in battle, and some other things here and there. I don't think any of these are. Fix Marathi's Technologies Festival of Ruin and Endless Debauchery, spreading chaos on Divided Corruption instead of Slaanesh Corruption. So that's been changed there. Now into the Dwarfs. So they have fixed some stuff here. So rebalance the starting severity of some starting grudges for the Dwarf Legendary Lords, and fix an issue where the grudge severity was increasing far more quickly than intended. Those two big things are one of the big bugs that the Dwarfs were suffering from in Immortal Empire's launch. That's huge. Moved Belegar's Vanguard deployment benefit from his Lord effect to his faction effect, which is massive, and Dwarfs no longer retain their Mohawks after losing their heads, which, let's be honest, was quite the skill. Campaign, Dwarfs no longer declare war on other AI Dwarfs during the Grudge Too Far endgame scenario, and fix an issue where Gotrek could not equip Dwarf runes, and Thorgrim Grudgebearer's starting engineer now has his unique starting trait, as does Cazador. Added an army-wide 20% missile block chance to Belegar's Lord trait too. Belegar is getting some tons of buffs there, and fixed the icon incorrectly claiming that unique items in the forge could be crafted multiple times. Grand Cathay, nothing crazy here. Both Miao Ying and Zhao Ming no longer have access to active spells or abilities when they're Dragon Transformation, with the exception of the following: Dragon's Breath, Talons of the Night, and Eye of the Storm. So they got a pretty hefty nerf right there. The Caravan Encounter, a gift from Ind, will now only offer units that will fit within the 20 unit cap of the Caravan army. And then into green screens right away. They also benefit from that buff. When an AI greenskin faction's wall completes, the event message will now display the faction in question and will only display if the player has met the faction through diplomacy. Let me see here. For a short victory here, yeah, I didn't even look at the greenskin ones, to be honest. Grom the Paunch does get some stuff here. Fix Grom's cooking ingredients not unlocking when completing his quest battle or when getting certain character types to rank 15. Fix Grom the Paunch's Lord defeat trait not applying the causes terror attribute. Skarsnik faction effect now not applying 100% experience for heroes. That's been fixed. And Skarsnik's greenskin recruitment building chain now starts at level 2. Wurzog fixed Wurzog being able to recruit the Idol of Gork Regiment of Renown at rank 2 rather than rank 30. People were talking about this in my video on the greenskins, saying like, hey, that's a big thing for Wurzog, and I didn't know it was a bug. So that is no longer a thing for Wurzog. Now into the High Elves. So for multiplayer, just because it's here and it's easy to talk about and it's my favorite faction, all of the High Elves, for the most part, have gotten a big multiplayer cost reduction, trying to help buff up their playability in multiplayer. But look at this. Also adding Martial Mastery to Sword Masters of Hoeth and Lore Masters. Finally, thank God. As some of the best combatants of the High Elven roster, we believe this is not be only an appropriate buff for performance reasons, but also thematic. Like, it made no sense that they did not have it. But into this campaign, Legendary Lord quests granting unique items will now grant the ancillary if the mission is cancelled. The High Elf Nobles gain influence agent action now grants influence over time, as in Warhammer 2. I didn't realize that was bugged. That's nice. That's fixed. Lithanar starts now with a Shadow Mage, and he starts at the Monoliths, no longer in Karen Carr. Eltharion the Grim, his long-term goals no longer mimic other High Elf Lords. Instead, he will need to deal with his rival Grom the Paunch, ensure Tor Ibris is in safe hands, and deal with other nearby greenskins and key Skaven threats. Increase the strength of Eltharion's second army and change its lords to an Archmage. Added unit capacity for Mistwalker units, and then Eltharion's Mistwalker Dilemma will no longer trigger for Legendary Lords who have been confederated. Imric's victory objectives have been seen some minor tweaks. Fiction issue where Imric's dragon encounter markers wouldn't produce a generic dragon, and clicking Imric's dragon encounter button will no longer move the camera to the button left of the map. You know, he was having some issues with Calidor, and I hope that's been fixed here too. I don't see any mentions of it, but I hope that has. Teclis, again, he has been changed to the Fortress of Dawn. That is his new starting location. He's had some victory objective tweaks as well. He needs to gain control of the majority of the Elven colonies rather than taking full control of Ulthuan, which I really love. It's a really cool thematic play for him, and it's something that I really wanted for him when I jumped into his campaign, and now that that's part of the victory objectives, it just feels really nice. It feels good. Updated the character model in the Talisman of Hoeth quest battle, assigned the correct deployment positions for the Lamaru quest battle, and then rotated reinforcement armies to closer match their entire entry locations for Warhammer 2. Updated the map for Armor of Calidor quest battle, so on and so forth. Tons of reductions here, right? Across the board. High elf influence traits have been rebalanced, bringing the weaker ones up to par and reducing a few outliers, while having some have their effects adjusted to make use of the new possibilities introduced in Warhammer 3. So I'm not sure what those mean. Restored the missing units from the High elf technology tree from the Warden and the Paunch DLC as well, and changed the missing requirements of the Scroll of Hoeth to defeat Tzeentch armies instead of Dark Elf armies. That was a big thing for Techless. You'd get it like immediately, but it'd say go defeat Dark Elves, and you don't have any close Dark Elves. So getting the Scroll of Hoeth was a pain in the ass. This is now way more feasible because you're going to start right up against Kairos Fateweaver. Into Khorne, they've kind of tweaked around with the Spawn of Khorne, the Chaos Shrines of Khorne here. Gorby's Chariot now uses the correct icon. Bunch of reductions for the unit cost. Garbran's Short Victory Reward in Mortal Empires has been replaced with a Chainsword. I love that. I love that he got the Chainsword. But a lot of reductions to cost here and increases across the board, as you can see. Khorne factions no longer equip the Chromic Tome ancillary as well. For Kislev, replaced Mammoths with Marauder Hunters in both Katarine starting enemy armies. Added sleds and Little Grom to Erengrad Frost Home special building and reduced port cost of Erengrad from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10k to 500, 1k, 2k, 4k, 6k. That's very nice. And fixed campaign settlement visuals for the Southern Oblast region to properly display as Kislev. For technology, Katarine now starts with the Ice Sculpting technology already unlocked, granting faster access to the Ice Court Tech training mechanic. And change the technologies that require ownership of settlements to also allow for allies' vassals. Yes, that's huge. So now you don't need to actually own those settlements. You can just simply ally yourself into the technology, and then you can get access to it. That's so much better than actually having to go and conquer it. The tooltip to acquire Katarine's unique weapon, Frostfang, has been updated to better reflect how to obtain it. For the Lizard Men, what's it called? Still sucks. The Geomantic Web. Nakai is no longer too zoomed in on the character details panel, which is nice. The broken visual link in Nakai's technology tree has been fixed, and fixed an issue where Kotal units would not be recruitable if you owned the Silence and the Fury DLC, but not the Prophet of the Warlock DLC. Interesting. Tic-Tac-Toe will now receive a Skink Chief with the unique trait at the start of the campaign. Krokgar's long victory objective no longer target Lustria and instead focus on limiting the forces of destruction and chaos nearby, which is cool. Same thing with his short victory. For Nakai's long victory objective now mainly focuses on dealing with the servants of darkness in the east. If Clan Pestilence is still alive once Nakai reaches his short victory, he'll receive a dilemma allowing him to spawn a wandering army to aid the lizards in Lustria. That's pretty cool. Add the total Old One's favor value to Nakai's Temples of the Old One's panel and remove the duplicated experience effect on Nakai's Sentinel Hall building. Proxyodal fixed his Visions of the Old Ones, fixed his teleportation cooldown. His long victory no longer targets Lustria. Instead, it requires completion of 25 medium or hard Visions of the Old One missions. And with the short victory, it has been reduced from 25 to 6. So a nice little change there. Deliverance of Eats of the Pizza has had spells now have cooldowns from 0 to 15, 20, and 25 seconds at levels 1, 2, and 3 respectively. For Norska? For Norska? What the fuck, man? Yeah, for Norska. Remove secondary building requirements for all units. Huge there. I just, in general, I don't like secondary building requirements for any unit in the game. It just feels too superfluous, especially with a limitation on where you can build, when you can build, what your tier is, having to destroy things to make it. It just becomes such a headache. So I'm glad to see that's gone. Moved unlocked for chariot units to the Smith Chain. Smith Chain effects recruitment cost reduction 5, 10, 15, local recruitment capacity 1, 2, 2, and 0, 0, 1 for global recruitment capacity. Offerings chain effects have had some changes here, and Norscan income change from infrastructure has been decreased 100, 200, 300 to 50, 100, 150, and settlement buildings 40, 80, 120, 160, 200 to 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So very drastic drop on the infrastructure and settlement buildings for them, but ports remain unchanged. Skeggy settlement and Southern Nagaron have been removed and returned to the neighboring Dark Elf factions, and fixed map position for the Norscan Monster Hunt quest. Bunch of stuff here with the units. Throg's King of Trolls skill now applies effects as intended, which is good. For Nurgle, pestilence effects that are designed to increase enemy siege attrition no longer decrease it. Unit changes across the board here. Quite a few, mainly multiplayer cost reductions or multiplayer cap increase or reductions. Nothing crazy. Children of Nurgle passive no longer utilized in the game. Interesting. Ogre Kingdoms here having found the open air and sea breeze of Myrmidons a little too overwhelming. Scrag the Slaughterer starting position is being updated to the more familiar and cramped tunnels of Karak and Gazar. So he is now off of the border princes. So that'll kind of change the kind of dynamic around there. That'll be interesting. Improve the attacking AI's ability to knock down settlements' walls, which I do like that indeed. Again, giants getting their buff across the board. For those wondering, it's an armor increase, it's a base weapon damage increase, it's an AP damage increase, and it's a multiplayer cost reduction. So you can now see that. Sky Titan Plateau now gives +1 camp limit for every level 5 camp constructed, which is juicy. Skaven, the massive Skaven Doom Wheels needed a bump, especially since similar chariots significantly were more weighty. But for general updates here, and there's been a lot of Skaven changes. Warlock Engineer heroes gain, once again experience, oh Jesus Christ. Warlock Engineer heroes once again experience, heroes once again experience a 10. Oh, experience. I read that as gain experience. Once again, experience a 10-turn cooldown when establishing undercities. I can read, write, and sometimes count. Added missing settlement icons for resource and strategic locations for Crookback Mountain. Improved Skaven AI construction to reduce the amount of Skaven slave armies, especially for Clan Eshin. And fixed an issue where the Plague Priest from Clan Pestilence scheme was not, or from the Pestilence scheme was not spreading plagues to settlements. That's huge because it made Clan Pestilence a kind of pain in the ass to deal with. Into the faction and lord effects updates here for Quick Headtaker. The following changes have been made to the faction effects. -2 loyalty for Grey Seers. Quick no longer steals a percentage of XP, which is lovely. I did not like it for him. Food costs reduced by 33%, so a third for Menace Below uses. Players can now purchase up to +5 additional uses of Menace Below before battle, and reduce upkeep for Clan Rats and Stormvermin by 25% faction-wide. Very, 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 very nice. Also added a new reward for capturing Karak 8 Peaks and tweaked Queek's Lord effect to be more versatile. His Lord effect now is the 50% upkeep reduction for Clan Rats and Stormvermin Lord's army has been removed. Added -20 leadership for enemy lords and heroes in the local region, and weapon strength and melee attack buffs when fighting dwarfs and greenskins now apply force-wide. Maybe that means faction-wide. Melee attack buff when fighting dwarfs and greenskins change from +10 to +10%. I don't like that. I'd rather take the +10. +10. I mean, yeah, I guess in some instances +10% could be great when you look at your heavier hitting things, but if I had 80 melee attack +10% is only 8 versus that's a flat 10. I think I'd rather take the flat 10. Maybe it was too strong. I don't know. Karak 8 Peak changes, controlling it now. Asqueak now grants Frenzy for all Clan Rats and Stormvermin, which is pretty cool. So for Tretch Craventail here, the Betrayal bonus has been reworked. Tretch's faction now gains the following bonuses to all armies for 3 turns whenever he declares war. +25% ambush success chance, +50% enemy reinforcement time, and Vanguard deployment, +1 use for... That's pretty sick. Other faction effects change include +3 recruitment rank for Stormvermin has been removed, +1 armor and base weapon damage attack per unit experience rank for Clan Rats and Stormvermin has been added. I like that. It's good because Tretch had the best Stormvermin because he was able to like pump out rank 5 Stormvermin because of Crookback Mountain. There's a building in there that gives it +1 or +2 rank. So plus those things together, it's like rank 5. They're coming out pretty juicy. This at least makes it so that when they're at rank 9, they're getting +9 armor and +9 base weapon damage attack per unit experience. I mean, that's pretty nice, right? It's like +1 rank 9 is, you know what I mean. And Lord effects, added attribute Devastating Flanker, removed Vanguard at deployment. Don't know how I feel about that. That's cool. It's thematic. Because you're ambushing, right? So you're going to be able to get tons of flanks off. But I kind of liked Vanguard deployment as a kind of no-brainer to how to play the faction, or at least how to take advantage of things. That'll take some playtesting to see how I like it. That's a very, very drastic change to the faction. And if you aren't particularly good at taking advantage of it, it's going to be pretty rough for you. But again, you have a very high increased chance of ambush success, so Devastating Flanker shouldn't be too bad. Remember that it only gets the bonus if you hit them in the flank or the rear. Campaign Thrott's Flesh Lab upgrades will now correctly apply their effects. However, for this to take effect, players must start a new campaign. The Warlock's Engineer, that's a big one. The Warlock Engineer's model is no longer offset on the campaign map after a quick save is loaded. And Skaven settlements have their wall towers swapped for tier 3 and tier 4 projectiles has been fixed. So, Tretch Craven Tail's removed ability by our blood passive. He does not have it at all, period. For Slaanesh, Nakari can now choose to destroy or subjugate targets to satisfy their short victory objective, and Slaanesh Disciple armies no longer count towards supply lines calculations, which is so huge. So huge. A bunch of multiplayer cost reductions across the board and what have you. Just kind of scooting through those. Disciple armies that are summoned via Slaanesh's Unholy Manifestation will now scale in size based off the local Slaanesh corruption. The max damage of Giver of Torturous Glory, Chaos Shrine of Slaanesh, has been reduced from 16 to 32 to 12 to 24. And here it is. Big Franzia. The Franz has gotten quite the changes here. So, for the Empire, some padding has been added between the Empire technology groups so they appear nice and neat. Empire factions no longer bypass the 5-turn cooldown on Confederation through their faction mechanic. Electric count tweaks. Electric counts can now be invited to join wars, thank fucking God, greatly reduce the reinforcement delay and remove the cost of moving the reinforce point in Empire electric reinforcement battles, because that was causing a huge issue. Huge issue. Whenever you'd go to do these, you just basically watch your guy die, and you just couldn't do anything about it. Added extra cav units to Empire Elector reinforcement battles to help with larger map sizes, which is lovely, right? You'd spawn at the other end of the map, you have to sprint all the way across. So since Sylvania is occupied on turn 1, we've increased the buffer for when penalties from lost capitals kick in from 1 to 2. And fix an inconsistency with electric count capitals being raised versus occupied. Region tagging. Electric counts now use the region tagging system present in Champions of Chaos. Players now gift a broader set of regions to the relevant electors, including ones not owned by an elector at a campaign start that they might have a claim to. Authority is now gained by returning an elector's capital rather than reviving them from death. This removes situations where it was better to allow an elector to die rather than save them. Note that players will need to start a new campaign for these changes to be implemented. So for the campaign, there's a lot of big fixes here. Fix an issue where Karl Franz's short victory objective would sometimes abort. Karl Franz will now receive a guaranteed wizard of a random type at the start of his second turn, which is lovely. Added a missing garrison building chain to Altdorf. Reduced the unlock of Castle Reich to Altdorf to tier 3. I think it was tier 4 before. Yeah, because it's reduced. It might have been tier 5 actually. Marcus Wolfhardt's long victory objective now targets Lustria instead of the Empire. Armies spawned from Marcus Wolfhardt's hostility mechanic will now only spawn from certain specific locations in Lustria. This is huge because it would randomly spawn in towards any region's capital, I believe, provincial capital in any province. So now that has a set spawn location. If Wolfhard or his ally occupy these regions, the armies will no longer spawn. The Altdorf Conclave of Wizards has been reduced to tier 3 to match the generic chain it replaces. It now also grants an additional +1 battle wizard capacity over the generic version. The player-controlled Empire can now do full diplomacy with Marienburg, including diplomatic confederation. Huge. Confederating Empire that's weird. Confederating Empire minor factions through the Empire political changes now properly obey the 5-turn cooldown on confederations. And then giving the option to confederate will be delayed until these 5 turns have expired. So it's nice. You're not going to lose it. It's just delayed. Volkmar has increased baseline aversion within dead factions. You know, all the ones that start around him. And prestige gained from battles is now visible in the post-battle screen. Updated reinforcements location for the player's allies during the Amber Bow quest battle, and multiple buildings in the Amber Bow quest battle are no longer incorrectly marked as destructible. For the Toddy, fix the Order of Boris Todbringer's campaign skills. How about just adding him? Add him to the game. You know you want to. For Franz himself, basically they've made it so that it's easier for him to work with the elector counts. We've buffed Galmaraz to better align with its legendary status and lore. So faction effects now grant 25% prestige from battle, which is massive. The Best of the Empire skill that used to grant +5 leadership bonus for various units has been replaced by +20% experience gain for all units in the Lord's army. The Lord effect has also undergone some tweaks. It now grants the Guardian ability to Reichsguard and Great Swords in Karl's army. That is juicy, meaning any captains, Karl himself, and any wizards you have are going to be getting that Guardian benefit. Removed +8 leadership, but added +10 charge bonus, and the effect can now replenish in neutral territory. Is lovely, 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 lovely. Items Galmaraz now grants sundering attacks and +75 flat armor piercing instead of 10% weapon strength. Also grants an additional 15% weapon strength when fighting against chaos. So a lot of much needed love for Empire that really gives him a new paint of coat. New coat of paint to make them feel a little bit better, especially playing Karl Franz. You do truly feel like the Uniter. That was their focus here. Allow them to operate more effectively when supporting the electors. So I like it. I like especially that can replenish in neutral territory, because you might not be at war with the electors. You don't want to damage reputation, or you're standing with them and you have to move through their territory. You can still at least replenish doing it. So I like that a lot. So into the Tomb Kings, removed Vampiric Corruption from level 3 of the protection chain for the Tomb Kings, added a bespoke overlay for the defeat panel, and fixed a discrepancy between porthole and unit card for direwolf units. There are some light tweaks to Khalid's short victory to make them more vampire-centric, and Setra will now receive a Tomb Prince with a unique trait at the start of a campaign. Tomb Kings can now increase hero capacity repeatedly via the Mortuary Cult. Oof! Updated the subtitles displayed. Cool. Fixed unit items in the Mortuary Cult incorrectly, showing the icon representing that they could be crafted multiple times. Into Zinchi Poo here. Added missing sound effects for the Zinch Sorcerer Lord. Half the Library and Corruption Chain's income % increase is now Winds of Magic dependent. Very thematic. I like that. And Kairos' starting position has been changed. With his mysterious goals in the Fortress of Dawn now complete, Kairos has been retreated to the Fate Weaver's crevasse just across the ocean. So now he will be in the Southern Chaos Wastes, Southern Chaos Pole, having kind of a direct opposition to Oxyodal, and he'll have Teclis right above him now. So you'll see that will be pretty juicy for him. Bunch of changes there in multiplayer. For anything? Nope. Right into the Vampire Coast. Vampire Coast artillery crews now play context-sensitive voiceover. I'm not sure what that means. Fixed Vampire Coast armies building Vampire Count's siege towers. Added a bespoke overlay. Fixed an issue with the zombie resurrection sound effects to be spammed. Updated the hard collision in Vlad's Blood Drinker questline. And fixed incorrect display of exploding units. It doesn't say anything about the fact that healing units for the Vampire Coast right now replenishes their ammo. Maybe that was hot fixed and I don't know it, but that was a bug and I'm surprised I don't see it there. Fixed an issue where for the Vampire Counts now, fixed an issue where chill guys for not healing, removed some unnecessary penalties from Kelmer's AI, and fixed an issue where the Balefire aura from the Balefire Corpse Cart would not apply. The Banshee, being a ethereal unit, we want to make the damage armor piercing versus normal. Okay, so they just swapped their base weapon to 0, and their AP got a huge buff from 240 into 290. Manfred von Karstein's Lord effect, granting him 15 additional mana reserve, now no longer revert upon loading a save file. That's lovely. Warriors of Chaos had some little bit of changes here. Fixed an issue with Arcane Wisdom. Fixed a variety of skills not applying correctly to Champions of Chaos army lines. Fixed an issue where Valkyria's shield would T-pose. All 4 of the Champions of Chaos will now upgrade demonic infantry into their exalted variants. The Chaos Sorcerer Lord's cape no longer has a mind of its own. Damn it. Sigvald's building and commandments now spreads Slanesh corruption. Valkyria's bloodletting ability at max level now allows casualty replenishment in foreign territory, which is really nice. Fixed Valkyria's soul gain from post-battle sacrifices not being increased by her faction trait. Okay. And fix a number of rifts that can be opened by Be'lakor and Immortal Empires that were positioned within impassable terrain. Lovely. Updated Festus' battle behavior to make him engage more in melee combat than before, thus using his capabilities. Added missing AI usage configurations to Festus' healing elixirs and Harbinger of Pestilence. Interesting. He felt so goddamn powerful as an AI force anyway. So, tons of changes here. Physical resistance for the Giver of Glory has gone down by 10%. I felt like talking about that. For Sigvald, the innate trait now grants the Fascination Army ability to Sigvald's army if he is your faction leader. Egomaniacal now grants the Narcissism Army ability to Sigvald's army. Born to Serve grants Sweet Sorrow. Favored Son grants 4 armor piercing to Marauders, Warriors, and Chosen. And Marked by Slanesh now grants 5 melee defense to the aforementioned units. Technology, Sigvald now has access to the Vicious Lash tech as well. Interesting. Scarlet Armor for Valkia, though, reduced the intensity setting of the item. Max kills required from 500 to 100, and minimum kills required 250 to 50. Into the Wood Elves, who have had quite a lot of stuff changed. Added missing Wood Elf units to allied recruitment. Removed description that states special Wood Elf outposts. Okay, cool. Added missing garrison buildings to Wood Elf settlements. And added a starting development kindred point for Orion and Durthu. So basically, Orion got a huge tweak. He starts in the Wild Hunt. And let's take a look at some of this. So changes made to his faction effects. New effect. 50% movement range and Woldroot stance. That's massive because he started with such a hard way to move through his starting location. It was a pain in the ass. Minus 8% upkeep for each active war. Minus 4% upkeep for each active war, all other armies. So he gets more of a decrease, of course, but his other armies still get that half of that decrease. And it's still a pretty substantial one, right? Removed plus 10 leadership in force battles, and removed minus 15% upkeep for cav units. Changes made to the Wild Hunt. Duration is now 5 turns rather than 10, and cooldowns 10 rather than 20. Now starts with the Wild Hunt already active turn 1. Orion now gets 50% battle movement speed when the Wild Hunt is active, so we can keep up with his Wild Riders. Zoom, zoom. All characters get 25% movement range after raising a settlement during the Wild Hunt, and no cooldown on the deep roots. No cooldown on deep roots teleportation during the Wild Hunt. So that's pretty damn huge. Changes made to his Lord effect. Weapon strength and charge bonus buffs now affect all cav units, not just Wild Riders and Stag Knights. And removed 5% faction-wide missile damage. Changes made to his never-ending hunt skill. Now grants 25% movement range after raising a settlement for Orion himself. So I think that stacks up to 50%. Yeah, I would think so. Well, with the Wild Hunt active, it would stack up to 50%. Wild Rider recruit time set to 1 turn for all Wood Elf factions, as in Warhammer 2. Very, 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 very lovely. So Durthu has gotten some changes here too, because Drycha kind of took his spot as the tree spirit Wood Elf character, right? So his ancient treemen now provide map-wide missile damage buffs when casting, and both spellsingers and ancient treemen will become more powerful when working together. On top of that, his treemen can now also tear down walls, opening up new avenues of attack for mobile elf units. This theme of synergy extends to Durthu's personal army, with his treemen and treekin now providing potent area effects. He's encouraged to mix units together to maximize their performance in battle. We also felt that Drycha's combination of much stronger treemen and much earlier access to them was probably a bit too much of a powerful combo, giving a major power spike as soon as you built a tier 3 settlement. As such, we've split the difference between the two tree spirit focused characters. Both Drycha and Durthu now get access to treemen at tier 4 rather than 3 and 5 respectively. I like that. That's a good change. Changes made to this faction effect. So attribute Wallbreaker for all treemen and ancient treemen. Attribute Mastery of the Elemental Winds for all ancient and embedded Spellsinger heroes. And passive ability Wrath of the Wood, map-wide missile damage buff when casting for ancient treemen. But loses 50% recruitment cost for branch race and plus 10 melee attack from forest battles. Cool with that. Definitely cool with that. Changes made to his Lord effects. Removed the weapon strength and charge bonus buffs, but added Resplendence of Luminescence, an AoE melee buff to all treekin units, and Annoyance of Netlings, AoE melee debuff for all treeman units. That's really sick. I like that a lot. Other changes, Durthu now starts with a Spellsinger instead of a Branch Wraith, and Durthu now has access to Drycha's alternate version of the Forest Spirits chain. Level 3 of Drycha Durthu Forest Spirits chain now requires a tier 4 settlement, was tier 3. And for campaign, Wood Elves no longer declare war on AI Wood Elves, which is cool, during the Wild Hunt, that is. Endgame scenario. Fixed the Spirit of Elder's Dilemma. Fixed cases where a Wood Elf army couldn't teleport in or out of the Haunted Forest or Jungle of Qian forest regions, and major settlements controlled by the Wood Elves now have walls in defensive settlement battles. As you can see, a lot has changed. A lot has gone down across the board here. So let's go into some campaign stuff now. The biggest thing is with our character experience. So let's move into this. Victory type is no longer used as part of the experience calculation. Instead, experience will be granted based on a combination of the enemy army's value and the proportion of enemy army that was destroyed, regardless of whether the battle was a win or a loss. So in other words, destroying 80% of the army will grant the same amount of experience. And killing someone in a forced march, you get 100%. So even if they had units that retreated, which is cool, but like I said, I'm worried that that's going to focus on, make people just kind of, all right, well, I got to mop these up. I'm going to mop this up. There's got to be some sort of tutorial thing that tells new players that, because that's kind of crucial. Because it pops up, okay, they've all fled. Do you want to end this battle? And if you're not new to the game and not present when this patch comes out or anything like that, you're not going to know that cleaning up the board actually results in more experience for you. If you've played any of the previous Total War games, like Medieval, for example, it gave you more prisoners and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of something that needs to have a little more transparency on. Also, when it comes to the heroes will now gain around 50% more experience from participating in battles, bringing their progression rate closer to that of lords. Roman just hit his head on the wall next to me. In addition to this, we are adding a new mentor skill to every lord and hero. This unlocks at level 30 and can be upgraded further at 40 and then 50. So that's kind of nice, right? It's kind of what we got with the Warriors of Chaos. Plus, the Lord version of the skill will grant increased experience gained to heroes in their army, which is even better. So nice changes there in the campaign. Now, with the settlement, we talked about this a little bit before, right? We continue to look for a sweet spot for the unwalled settlement battle type. The following changes will adjust the frequency of the battle type and reduce it. How much will depend on the players and also the AI's playstyle. Additionally, we have lost some of the more detailed and nuanced pieces of content when we transition from Mortal Empires to Immortal Empires, but in the process of re-adding some of its flavor. So, all major settlements will retain their walled settlement battles, enabled by the wall effect on the primary chain. All minor settlements will now trigger a land battle by default. Added an effect that has a chance to turn the default land battle into an unwalled settlement battle, similar to the wall effect on a major settlement, leading to a walled settlement. This effect has been added to most standard garrison chains starting on tier 2 and tier 3. Okay, I forgot to read that, and I was talking about it earlier. So is it a percentage chance that it happens, or what's... This is added an effect that has a chance. So it must be a percentage chance based off of the tier. The below exceptions should remain as they were before. So Norskin and Ogre homeland still do not provide wall sieges, but will change to unwalled settlement. Wood Elf Glades, Outposts, and Beastmen Hearthstones have unwalled settlement, World Root battle version, and Beast Path battle version battles. There are some additional changes too. Added a unit of Reiksguard to Castle Reich. Ogres have access to both garrison chains in minor and majors. Now only one is correctly available. Missing siege defense towers have been added. Heroes have been added to the settlement garrisons from hero unlocking buildings. So you can see that all right here. My rice is done. The brown rice I made is finished cooking. You can tell in the background. That's that neuro fuzzy technology. It's popping off. In addition, we have added missing spells to garrison heroes, which is lovely. Finally, additional units at all tiers for special settlement locations with 3 to 4 units of higher unit quality have been added to the following units or locations. Just some standouts: Lothern, Nagaron, Altdorf, Drakenhof, Coron, Weijin, Lamia. So a lot of the more pivotal places. AI aggression and game difficulty here increased general AI army aggressiveness to balance between the current 3 and former 2 values. Added additional difficulty scaling for aggressiveness on very hard and legendary. Tweaks for AI behaviors around settlements. Increased faction potential bonus for higher difficulties and added increased XP gain for AI units and characters. Reduced AI generated diplomatic goals from 2 to 1 and adjusted AI skill section for Khorne, Tzeentch, Kosteltian, Kugath, Boris, and Greasus. Adjusted how AI deals with character yin and yang effects, and increased priority for AI to build garrison and wall buildings. Very interesting there. AI behavior with commandments that consume slaves adjusted. Settlement AI will now be aware of stealth units trying to capture victory points. Is that good? How aware? Are they aware when they go onto the capture point? Are they aware that they can? Are they aware in like an AI way? Like, oh yeah, I know you're there even though you're stalked because I'm the AI. Curious to see how that one plays out. The AI will now reliably research technologies that cost money. Removed a bug preventing the AI using their toggleable abilities. Interesting. Addressed a bug where the AI would avoid entering a settlement when attacking it. The attacking AI armies in siege battles will no longer commit to approaching a ladder if there are other easier means of nearby entry. Improve the AI's use of agents. The AI now uses the new dynamic region hint system as part of its evaluation on when to declare war. This should decrease war declarations by distant factions that are unlikely to come and attack you. Various factions have had their base faction potential changed. Legacy nerfs to the Borrow like it borrows. When controlled by the AI from Warhammer 1 have been removed as they were no longer necessary. Minor Tzeentch factions have been prevented from using Changing of the Ways in the Immortal Empires map as well as Relic Chaos map. This will likely require a new campaign to take effect. A bunch of AI construction changes across the board. don't really want to go through all those. Immortal Empires added new Skaven-themed endgame scenarios. Black Pyramid of Nagash now starts flying when the Pyramid of Nagash endgame scenario triggers. This battle also loads with the Black Pyramid of Nagash. That's pretty cool. Let's see here. Confederation has been rebalanced, making it easier to achieve. Specifically, the base version has been reduced slightly. The weighing of the player's military strength has been increased slightly, and you will gain a bonus to Confederation if you own regions within the currently active region hint group for that AI faction. Plus, the penalty to Confederation for the target having recently conquered a settlement now only applies for 7 turns, down from 10. Cool. Eltharion and Nakari now have diplomatic contact at the start of the game, added a front-end customization option to enable diplomacy, peace and confederation for endgame scenario factions. Encountering a vassal faction will automatically count as meeting its master. The gift to vassal option is no longer available if the vassal is dead. Reduced public order penalty from Confederation by -8 to -4. So a lot of cool changes there. Let's move into some stuff with battles. I told you, these are some dense patch notes. General updates added missing army abilities to quest battles, fixed missing tooltips for battle leader, invalid usage flags on abilities, updated Newland to correctly load barricades in the style of the settlement that they are contracted in, and fixed missing or non-functional army abilities on minor factions during battle. This means that changing an army's banner color, for example, during a multiplayer battle, will no longer prevent some army abilities from working correctly. That was a really annoying one. A bunch of changes here to multiplayer and the matchmaking process. But moving into stuff like graphics and such, the shader for Hexray sites have been, when viewed through the porthole, has been changed. A lot of other things here. An issue where the Arnheim battle map was displaying floating magical pillars. Some previously missed art assets now use Warhammer 3 style. All the 2D lords and heroes artwork from Warhammer 1 and 2 has been updated to align with Warhammer 3 style. Very lovely there. An issue where lava would display both siege corruption and the usual textures simultaneously been fixed. Lovely stuff. Things for audio, battle replays not triggering sounds or nor updating audio settings while paused. Buildable towers and barricades construction sounds continue to loop has been fixed. A bug where music would sporadically stop playing during battles. I've heard that one. Campaign pending battle music not triggering on the post-battle screen. So a lot of nice changes across the board here, just little fixes and tweaks. A minor sync issue between some campaign musical elements, and we've enhanced the audio of several Lord Select videos: Draika, Gorst, Grombrandal, Orion, Oxyotl, Sisters of Twilight, Skarsnik, Volkmar, and Wurzog. Also some changes to the settlement sounds for everyone in this location right here, or in this section right here. Added new full-screen parallax background illustrations for Beastmen, Bretonia, Greenskins, Tomb Kings, Vampire Counts. A bunch of fun stuff across the board. Updated all stance icons, factions to match the style of Warhammer 3, and then some localization changes. That is it. But let's now talk about moving forward. So in the looking forward location, as you can see, we've crammed a lot into update 2.2, but the work never stops. Up to 2.3 rapidly approaches and is currently due to land in November. Good Lord. Here, look at some of the improvements you can look forward to when it arrives. Oh my God, this is such a huge patch notes. I'm like, I didn't know we had more coming this year. This is going to be Warhammer 3's final patch of 2022 before we ramp back up again in the first quarter of 2023. Update 2.3 is expected to focus on bug fixes and balance changes that weren't quite ready for this release. Okay. Lighter than 2.2. With this in mind, we want to ensure 2.3 addresses the most critical issues and the things that are most important to all of our players. So your feedback, as always, continues to be vital. So nothing crazily hinted here. As always, here's some of our most heavily monitored channels for providing feedback. There are already some known issues. So auto-resolve minor settlements post 2.2, AI preemptive dodging, artillery and ranged attacks, siege battles, deployable structures. Those seem to be some of the focuses they're going to be doing on 2.3. No mentions, of course, to anything when it comes to any kind of DLC or anything like that. It is a patch note, and I would imagine we probably won't see any kind of DLC or anything like that until early 2023. And I would imagine it would probably be a campaign pack if we're talking about matching the kind of pace of Warhammer 2. I think that Warhammer 3's balance is now going to be predicated upon the presence of Chaos Dwarfs in the map, because the Darklands are kind of this dark land. Like, any campaign there just feels kind of aimless. There's no real true objective. You can just kind of, whatever player character you are playing that starts in or around the Darklands, you could just create a respective empire for that faction, right? Like, oh man, Kislev in the Realm of Chaos. Well, it's a massive Kislev colony there in the Darklands. Imrik, now it's a high elf new empire in the Darklands, so on and so forth. So I think that a lot of stuff is going to be predicated upon that, the inception of those Chaos Dwarfs, and I am beyond excited for them. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, my bros, how you're liking 2.2. We might be jumping on here with a stream this week just to kind of show it off and talk about it a little bit. Look at some of these changes and test them. I'm finally going to be able to now do the Empire and the Dwarfs in their respective best to worst Immortal Empires hero thing that I've been, or Legendary Lord video that I have been doing. It's worth noting, of course, that means now that the Skaven one's pretty jank. It's pretty out of date, and the High Elf one's already pretty kind of beat up. Wood Elf 1 too feels pretty rough now as well. So maybe I should have waited until this update to do all those videos. But either way, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below how you're feeling about update 2.2. As always, though, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.